You are listening to The Underground Subway with host David Alston, a podcast dedicated to giving you the strategies to live a free and better life. Here is David Alston.
Hi, I'm David Alston, host of The Underground Subway, a podcast that is dedicated to giving you the strategies, the tools, the experience, the expertise, anything that we can lay before you that will help you to live a better life. Are you tired of life as it is? Are you struggling? Are you in the midst of feeling I'm just sort of like the hamster on the wheel, just going round and round, or I may be on a treadmill. I'm running, but I'm not going anywhere. Then it's time for you to live a better life. And this podcast is dedicated to just that, giving you the tools necessary to live a better life. We are not the Underground Railroad. My grandmother was first cousins with Harriet Tubman, who led the Underground Railroad, but we're leading the Underground Subway, a modernized way of getting you out of the chains of life and like allowing you to experience a better and more peaceful lifestyle, not just for you, my friends. I don't want to be free and have my children and grandchildren and my cousins and nieces. I want everyone around me to be free. I want everyone around me to be liberated. What does it mean to be liberated? It means to live a life free of all the restraints, to be able to live, function, think without anything holding us back. My friend, we come to you on this podcast with guests all the time, and I'm excited. I am super excited about my guest for the Underground podcast for this special edition. I want to introduce to you Amanda Kate. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Amanda. Amanda is the author of a book entitled Divine Messy Human, a spiritual guide to prioritizing internal truth over external influence, kinesiologist, mentor, archeo- archetype, archetypical life coach, mother, and more. A recovering people pleaser and self-flagellator, she walks the path straddling divine and messy daily, always growing, developing, and learning new ways of being to hopefully one day leave the earth better than she found it. I think right there, that is the goal that all of us should take on. She lives in Melbourne, Australia. And when you talk to her, you'll hear that Australian accent with her twin flame, her children, his children, and a dog named Zeus. I want to welcome to the Underground Subway, Amanda Kate. I'm ready to hear that Australian accent. Welcome, Amanda.
Oh, thank you so much,
There it
David. I
is.
appreciate
There
it.
it
There it
is.
is. There it is. Do
Well,
you know
tell
when I put that little bio out, the children and my partner were like, why does the dog get named? I'm like, because he's got a cool name.
yeah, he does. Yes. Yes. I hope he fits the name Zeus. He's got to be,
Oh, of course.
he's got to rule the house.
Oh, he does. He does. When do they not?
Yes. Yes. Well, tell us, Amanda, a little bit about yourself and about, how your life experiences can help us live a better life.
Well, it's interesting. I guess for the most part, I had a pretty, from the outside looking in, privileged life. I'm a white middle class female, so apart from obviously the female aspect, I knew a pretty decent way of living, and in the early 2000s, I got really quite, actually, it must have been 2010, 2011, 2013 ish, roughly. I got quite sick and I kept looking for answers. And, modern doctors were telling me I was absolutely the healthiest sick person they had seen. They couldn't understand why I was struggling with life so much. And it took a number of years of working it out, but basically I found out I had chronic fatigue, and I found natural therapies through that because modern medicine seemed to keep brushing me off. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know, all my bloods looked fine. They, apart from putting me on antidepressants, they didn't know what else to do. And I knew antidepressants weren't the answer for me. I know they are for some people, and I fully respect and understand that. But for me, it didn't feel right. Not one single person asked me about my relationships or my support structures or the people that I had in my life around to give me guidance and support. And I guess through that, I ended up finding natural therapies, and I found kinesiology. I had gone, I still remember going into my first session, and my kinesiologist and I laugh about it now. She actually ended up being one of my teachers while I was training. And I said to her, you know what? I am broken. And if I don't fix myself, I'm, I need to fix myself enough to save my marriage. Um, which in itself, looking back, is a crazy ass thing to think because, one, I don't believe any human is broken. I think we are all absolute divine creatures, as crazy and as screwed up as we may feel at times. I think there is divinity in all of us. Um, and I see that some of our brokenness is actually magical. It's what creates our life experience and creates the way that we interact with the world. And it creates our own unique vision of the world, which can really guide and inform a lot of people. And also to think that I was so broken that I was the cause of, my marriage being toxic. Which, obviously I was, because it takes two to tango. But I guess in that self-discovery, I realized that for basically 36, 37 years of my life, I'd been trying to squash myself into boxes of other people's making. The things that I thought that people wanted from me, the things that were expected of me as a good Church of England raised middle class white female. I was trying to tick all the boxes. I had a rich, successful husband. I had two children. We traveled a lot. I'd lived in the UK for 11 years. Everything on paper looked amazing, but inside my soul felt like it was dying because I didn't actually know who I was. And that was, I guess, the path that I started on in my late 30s, was that self-discovery and understanding myself at a much, much deeper level, and starting to drown out the shiny external distractions and the
Mm-hmm.
noises from external sources, which were telling me that life needed to be a certain way. And to really tune into myself at a deep level to go, well, actually, what is it that you want? And that was something that, I still smile in clinic when I ask that question of my clients, because most people are as stumped as I was when I was first asked that question, because so often in life, we are not asked what we want. We're not asked what
Right.
makes our heart sing. We're
Right.
not asked what our dreams are.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. I was fascinated. I'm very fascinated because I remember, and I'm not sure whether the same popular television shows here in America is the same that's in Australia, but there's a very, very, very popular show here in America, and I'm not sure of when it was aired, probably the '90s, called The Golden Girls.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And Dorothy, the tall golden girl, she was going
Yes.
through something where she kept going to the doctors, and every doctor just didn't know what was wrong with her. And one of the doctors told her it was just, hey, it's just life, you're getting old. And she found out she had chronic fatigue syndrome.
Mm.
And it was amazing that no one had heard about it. And so when I hear you talk about that, I'm like, wow, it really happens. So what my question to you is,
Mm.
and I'm learning more, listening to more people talk about it, how much does our emotions, how much of a role do our emotions play in our physical health?
Oh my God, so much. And I think this is where, like, I love and respect modern medicine completely and utterly. I think everything has its place. Um, but our emotional health is beyond vital. When I look at pretty much all of my physical issues, it was because my emotional, my spiritual, my energetic, and my mental health were not good. And the reason for that is because I was a child who had big feelings. And I was laughed at, I was teased, I was humiliated about having those big feelings. And as a result, I learned to shove them down. And what happens when we resist our feelings and we ignore them, we try to hide them, we suppress them, we repress them, we're not living our truth. And if you imagine that each one of those feelings creates an energetic disturbance in your body, then your body will create a workaround for that disturbance. So if you look
Mm-hmm.
at your meridian structure, your auric fields, your chakra systems, all of those energy structures within the body, and even just when you're looking at, your circulation, your blood flow, your digestive system, all of that, there's reasons that we have the language we do. When we say, I've had an absolute gutful of that, or I can't digest that right now, we actually have language around what is going on, what we call metaphysically, which is beyond the physical. So, when we're shouldering burdens, guess what people have? They tend to have shoulder pain and neck pain. When we're not
Okay.
feeling supported, we're getting
Hmm.
back pain, we're getting hip pain.
Wow.
When we're having digestive issues, we're oftentimes not breaking down the information that's coming into us because we're too full of other stuff. We're not then able to assimilate it, to move it through the body. We're then having this toxic buildup because we're not processing what's going on around us. And so those emotions get stuck there. And if we're not acknowledging and validating the reasons for those emotions being there, if we're not dealing with the underlying traumas that put them there, then we're creating all of these energetic disturbances in the body, which end up becoming physical symptoms
May
down the
I
road.
may I interrupt you and ask you a
Of
question?
course.
I was talking to a coworker about, and I hope what I'm about to say doesn't sound, well, it shouldn't be disgusting because it's
No.
natural. And she was telling me that her son was the same way. That, and I guess there are people like me that cannot use the bathroom
Yep.
until like when I travel,
Yes.
when I'm out, that my body just won't allow me to use the bathroom until I'm home.
Yeah. Because you're holding on to what you need to let go of. So, a lot of my clients and a lot of people in emotional distress will swing from constipation to diarrhea, for example. Now, when you're constipated, you're holding on to stuff that you actually need to be letting go of. But that happens on a metaphysical level. It's not just the physical stuff. And when we're holding on to what we need to let go of, it becomes toxic. And then we're reabsorbing all that toxicity through our system.
Right.
Likewise, with constipation, with diarrhea, we should be holding on to that water. We should be absorbing that water. So then we need to ask ourselves, what are we letting go of that we need to be holding on to? So that could be our boundaries, our self-respect, anything like that we
Wow.
actually should be holding on to, that's ours, that we're giving away or letting go. And I remember I had an issue with that for about a month, and one of my one of my teachers said to me, "So who's giving you the shits?" Apologies for the language. And I went, "Holy crap! Oh my god!" Didn't have a problem with it after that because I had the realization. So my body was able to then get back into balance because we were able to release that emotional buildup, that emotional tension. And what I love about the work I do is I actually find the emotional vibrations, the actual emotions that are stuck there holding those patterns in place. And then we shift that out. So I remember at one point, I literally, I was in class and we were doing some work around a shoulder. And I'd had shoulder pain for about 4 to 6 months. And it was in the worst toxic time of my marriage. And self-respect was the emotion that was stuck in there because I was not respecting myself, and therefore I actually wasn't respecting anybody else. And so all of that pain had come in my shoulder, and as soon as they released it, I bawled my eyes out for about 20 minutes. I kid you not, I felt like the crazy person in class.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden I have not had that shoulder pain since.
Wow. So what can we do? Explain it to me like I'm a 6 year
Mm,
old. What
yeah.
what can we do as listeners to release all of that tension or anything that's creating a physical dilemma in our bodies?
So the first thing we actually have to do is actually make friends with our bodies. We are taught that our bodies are disgusting. They are, pooing, bleeding, messy machines. Like, we're told that they're pretty gross, and we're shamed for a lot of our natural bodily, functions. So the first thing is to actually become friends with your body. Your body has taken you through every day so far. It's
Hmm.
still functioning in one way or the other, and it's doing the best job it can. And so the first job is to start being kinder to your body, noticing that self talk. Are you, oh God, I'm too fat, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm
Uh-huh.
too sluggish, I'm blah, blah, blah. Well, hang on a minute. If I spoke to my children that way, do you think they'd perform well, or do you think they'd, have a few
Exactly.
issues?
Exactly.
And we speak to ourselves in ways that we would never dare speak to another human being.
Hmm.
And so if we start to just become, even if it is just thanking your feet for getting you through the day, or thanking your body for, functioning even though it's tired, for whatever it is, small things to start with, and then starting to notice some of the ways that different emotions feel in your body. Now, Brené Brown is probably the most famous researcher in terms of that emotional stuff, but there's heaps of other information out there. Building some language around the emotions that you have in your body, because most people work with three emotions of mad, sad, glad. So angry, happy, and sad. That's it for most people. So if you can bring a little bit more color and depth and texture to the emotions you're feeling, and understanding that you're never just feeling one emotion at the same time. So, okay, if I feel into my body right this second, my chest is a little bit tight, but it's not anxiety. It's actually like a nervous excitement, because I love chatting to new people, and it brings excitement. But if I wasn't as aware of my body as I am, that same feeling would actually feel like my anxiety, because it's quite tight across the chest. The reason I know it's not anxiety is I am breathing deeply. Whereas
Okay.
when we're in anxiety, we breathe quite shallow, but my breath is quite calm. So therefore I can recognize that it's actually like a nervous excitement rather than an anxiety. So that's just me feeling into my body right now. I can feel that, that emotion sitting there, and give it names, and then acknowledge why it's there. So if you're feeling angry, okay, why am I feeling angry? Well, you know what? This morning my partner did this. Okay, so what about that annoyed me? Well, it felt like a boundary violation. Well, that's a pretty good reason for anger to be there. So, okay,
Hmm.
so what can I do about that? Can I have a conversation with them, which is, when you do this, I feel, I make this mean, you know, that I'm your slave, that I'm your whatever, because it is just our story in our head that is creating a lot of those emotional cues.
Hmm.
And so just becoming more friendly with that and creating a conversation and creating more language around what we're feeling. Because anger, say, for example, isn't an issue. It's the way we tend to want to vomit that onto somebody else and make it
True.
their
Right.
problem.
Right.
Whereas if we just go, yeah, okay, I'm feeling cross right now because my kids have done this. Okay, so what can I then do about it to make sure that that boundary is back in place, or that I'm not feeling afraid, or that, I'm feeling safe in my world? So we just ask a lot of questions, get really curious with what our body's trying to tell us, and ask our body. So if you sit with your eyes closed and you feel into an ache or a pain, you can actually ask it the question, what are you trying to tell me? And often you will get a little answer in your subconscious mind that comes through as maybe a picture or a fleeting thought or a little voice in the head or whatever it is that'll say, I'm feeling this because, maybe it's as simple as you need a glass of water.
Hmm.
But
Right.
often we will get a little answer. But what we often try and do is look outside of ourselves at all the shiny, bright, flashing objects and we shout over that little voice that's trying to tell us what's going on.
How is it helpful or beneficial, or does strategies such as yoga and Zen, do all of those, do they help, or is that something totally different?
I think anything that gets you more in touch with your body
Hmm.
and keeps the mind body spirit alignment happening, I think is an absolutely incredible tool. I think it is beyond fabulous, because the more we understand our body and the more time we spend in our body, and what I mean by that is when you're overthinking, you're actually up in your head and your energetic field is lifted up. So we're not actually attached to the ground. It's like we're sort of floating and we feel a little bit unstable.
Hmm.
When we come back down into our body and breathe into our body and feel into our body and make friends with our body, we can start reading its symbols and signs a lot better, a lot clearer. And so I think anything that gets you into that alignment, that allows you to ground, time in nature is a great one. Walking with your shoes off is another good one. Feeling the sun on your face, or even just drinking a glass of water and feeling it go down your throat and into your stomach. They're all just those little mindful practices that increase the body mind soul connection, and therefore we can get our answers with a clearer line. I guess it's like dial up versus cable.
Right, right.
We can think our way to issues, but realistically we are going to think over all of our intuition, and we're going to question all of our intuition, and we're going to end up trying to logic ourselves into a place where that intuition is seen as claptrap or stories, or we're just making that up. Whereas
Okay.
if we feel into our body, we can feel those answers are true.
So meditation, if we were to meditate, just simply,
Yep.
isn't that a way of just, because I was wondering, I said, okay, what is meditation? Is it just simply sitting here quiet, or am I doing something while I'm meditating?
I am a big one just for closing my eyes and breathing and feeling into my body. And for me, that is meditation. I will feel for what my body is trying to tell me. And what my practice is to feel it without judging it. Because my first thing is, if my shoulder's sore or my back's sore or whatever it is, I'll be like, well, why are you sore? You shouldn't be sore. Like I'm trying to help you with this. It's almost like
Uh-huh.
that chastising mother, because that is the first reaction of a human being, is to want to judge. So if we can sit and come out of judgment and just go, treat it like a small child in our care. Okay,
Hmm.
shoulder, why are you sore today? What burdens are you carrying? What can I help you with?
Right. Wow. Why do we listen? You mentioned something about the shiny objects. Why do we listen to the shiny objects as opposed to, internal, what's going on inside of us? Or is it that we're just not accustomed to it, or?
Well, if you think that we are designed to move through the world at walking pace, that's what we are designed to take in information at. But we drive around at, 60, 80, 100 kilometers an hour, or in your case, what would that be, 40, 60, 70 mile an hour, hooting
I'm not
around.
I'm not telling how fast I drive. That's all.
No, I'm not judging. And we've got these constant moving images that are flashing, and we've got all of these sounds that we never had before, of cars moving really fast, of sirens, of electronics whirring in the background. We've got all of these sights, these sounds, and these movements that we weren't really designed to process. And so
Mhm.
our body is trying to process all of this information. And what our subconscious mind does is it runs it through certain filters to make sure that we're processing what's important. But there's been studies done that we're taking in anything up to 400 billion bits of information every second.
Mhm.
And of that, we're processing about 2,000 bits of information. So we need to really look at what our subconscious is filtering out
Right.
and why it's filtering that out.
I always believe that we only keep about 1%
Oh,
of
it's way less than that.
uh, right. And someone asked me, they said, well, that's not true. And I said, well, close your eyes. And they closed their eyes. I said, now, what color shoes am I wearing? And they couldn't tell me. I said,
Yep.
because the color of my shoes wasn't important enough for you to retain.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yep.
well,
Yeah, so it's fascinating.
yeah. Well, Amanda, we're out of time.
Oh, it was
Time
wonderful
has
chatting with you.
definitely flown. There's an old saying that time flies when you're having fun. Um,
And it's so true.
yes. One final question. Would you mind coming back and we can continue this
Oh,
conversation?
I would be absolutely honored. It's been so wonderful chatting with you.
All right. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Amanda.
Oh, thank you.
I want to
Sending love
thank,
to you guys over there.
all right. Likewise. Want to thank Amanda Kate for joining us on the Underground Subway. This was a very powerful conversation. I want to challenge you to take what you heard and to apply it. Let us stop focusing on the shiny, as Amanda said, and let us focus on the inner us. Let us look for tools. Let's look for some. We're going to put Amanda's information in the description. It's there in the description. You can try to find the information, the contact, ask her more questions. We're going to do what we need to do to be better. We're going to look inside of us and gain control of us. I cannot control you, but I can control the inner me. My friends, thank you for listening to the Underground Subway. Before you go, I want to challenge you to find a mirror before you go to bed tonight. Before you go to bed, find a mirror. Look at that mirror. Look yourself in the face, eyeball to eyeball, and ask yourself a question. Today, did I do something to tap into and to discover the inner me, which will make the world a better place? Or did I waste another day? Think about that. Have a great today and a better tomorrow. And I'll see you next time on the Underground Subway.